task is to tokenize the shares of a normal European company, which unfortunately is not possible directly yet, and we have to propose additional complicated structures that are way expensive than their expectations. But we also tokenize normal assets, sometimes real estate assets, or even regulated assets, as it's called.
Yeah, I just want to add something to what's tokenization. So the tokenization, the conversion of something which is valuable into the representation of a digital token. These assets can be as well tangible assets, so something which is physical, anything which is physical basically, or also intangible assets, so things that have value but are not touchable. For example, IP rights or copyright, and also the ownership should also be represented with this token. So when you hold the token, you have the ownership. But this also comes with some legal questions. Does a digital token represent actually the ownership? And we will discuss later, yes, a bit about that. But I also want to say that the digital token itself doesn't need blockchain, but the representation of the digital token in a blockchain comes with many advantages. For example, the transparency, and also that there's no double spend of a token. So nobody can claim, oh, I also have the token, or there's another token. No, this one token is unique on the blockchain, and the transparency and ownership, who owns this token, and so forth. But yeah, maybe.
Thank you. That's definitely very interesting, and I would like now to focus a little bit more on specifically the tokenization of real-world assets, as it might be a property, land, or gold. Anything that actually is tangible. Because, as for me, bringing those into the decentralized world, and even in DeFi, right, it opens many possibilities. So, what do you think about these guys? Like, how do you see this process happening? How do you see the benefits of this happening? Also, maybe what are the limitations and why it's not happening? Maybe also on the legal side.
So actually, the most common mistake or misunderstanding is that after tokenizing an asset, you are not able to directly transfer that token. Or by transferring from a wallet to a wallet, this doesn't mean that the ownership over the tokenized asset was transferred. Because most of the time, tokenizing something that will generate revenues, it's a security token. And it's an activity that must be regulated. So if we tokenize, for example, gold, or if we tokenize an apartment, and we transfer the tokens from our wallet to another wallet, this doesn't mean that the ownership of the asset was transferred, because you must perform the KYC on the new wallet, and the new holder must be registered as the owner of the asset. And in this situation, tokenization is only a form of eliminating the traditional way to record the owners, and it's not able to fully decentralize. I mean, you can't just transfer the token and to have the expectation that the ownership was transferred just like this. And we've seen that many times. After tokenizing an asset, the asset was sold to a third party, and the old owner asked the project to revert the token because he lost the access to his wallet. And it's the project must have this option implemented in the smart contract. I mean, to retake the tokenized the token from any wallet and give it back to the owner, which is registered.
You are suggesting that definitely we will not be able to have a fully permissionless DeFi having real-world tokenized assets. Is correct?
Considering the limitations implemented by the KYC rules and the ML regulations, we can't do it directly.
So probably by having, let's say, a permissioned layer over those applications, this could be possible.
Yes.
I would like to add something to that. I mean, KYC, money laundering laws regulation is one side, but also the terms and conditions when you buy such a token. Currently, the tokenization is, let's say, described through a so-called smart contract, which is a programmable code put on the blockchain. But I think that's not enough. We also need something which is called Ricardian contracts, which is both human readable and a parser, computer readable contract, where you can put something like who's the seller, who's the buyer, oh, these are the conditions, this is the jurisdiction, and so forth, which can also be put on the blockchain. And I think this should be, also defined with the tokenization, but it's not done yet, in most of the cases.
Yeah, and there are completely different rules and different limitations based on or considering the type of the asset that we tokenize. So we have financial related assets, we have real estate assets, and other assets. So if we are discussing about real estate assets, we must respect each country's rules, and there are additional layers that must be passed. We in some jurisdictions, in most of them, we need to go to the notary and so on. In terms of financial assets, we need a supervisory, local financial supervisory authority approval, and regarding the other assets, it depends.
Although all these regulations and limitations that are absolutely there and probably about to change, since maybe more people will realize how efficient that technology is, so laws will adjust. There are already successful projects that exploit tokenization of real-world assets. A great example is an American project called RealT, which is maybe the most successful project for real-world assets, tokenization. They buy real estate in the States, like houses, tokenize them, and anyone around the world can buy a fraction of a house and start earning monthly income because RealT is also renting the house. So you get rents, you also have equity in the house. How they achieve that? I went through the process. You buy a token, but they also send you a very normal contract over DocuSign, so you sign that contract. So you have both the blockchain insurance and like the regular traditional legal insurance that you're in that business. The good thing, which actually goes one step further, is that on Aave, which is one of the most popular lending platforms on DeFi, now you can lend your RealT tokens and you don't sign any contract for that. And once you lend them, you can borrow other cryptocurrencies in exchange. For example, while you're holding your piece of a house in the States, you can borrow USDC tokens and buy a car if you drive. So if you haven't seen that example, please take a look. RealT, it's very prominent project. It's also coming to Europe, and I would say that's one of the greatest examples. Many more to come.
Yeah, I personally know this, and I'm a huge fan. Since also in Finance we do lending and borrowing as Aave, we always try to tackle this issue, and with the other partners that we have on Aave, and we try to do similar. So RealT with Centrifuge and Aave have made a great job. So just to give the audience a bit of what could be also the risks of doing something like this, is that when you use collateral that are not fully on the permissionless market, then if the loan is being under collateralized because you borrow something that now it's worth more than actually your collateral or didn't pay your interest, then actually this asset must be liquidated. So, and it has to happen instantly. So that's a little bit tricky when you try to bring into DeFi those type of collateral. So, but yeah, there are projects that are doing it. We are moving forward. I don't know if anyone has some comments about it. How do you see this happening? Because that's the beginning what we just described. Do you have any comments?
My only comment is that we'll see more and more projects who enable tokenizations. Actually, some of them tried, like Synthetics released Tesla and Apple stock once on their network. It was shut down very quickly. We saw the same on Binance. It was not on DeFi, it was like centralized finance. Also, that was stopped due to some regulatory reasons, I believe. But we should continue making efforts in that direction, because having assets digitalized will actually enable mass adoption of DeFi, and that will make our entire financial system, and not just financial system, but our society way more efficient.
No, I hugely agree with that. Like right now, DeFi is just running behind incentives and crypto. As soon as we will have more real-world use case, that, for example, is being able to collateralize a real-world asset, then actually DeFi will be more useful. Do you want to add something?
Yeah, I wanted to, a thought came up. I mean, we can create these tokens. Let's say we have a building which we tokenize, or an ecosystem where a token should be used, that the ecosystem will be fueled or can function, basically. But how are these tokens currently generated, or how many tokens are generated? Currently, it's more the approach like you put the finger in the wind and feel, oh yeah, this is 100 million tokens, 100 billion tokens, or something like that. And you probably flood the market with these tokens, and the economy can never really be established, or the token price starts at 50 cents and then it's lands at 1 cent, and many investors might have lost their value that they put into the token. So I would actually suggest to calculate, like mathematical calculations behind setting up such a system with tokens, and to see, okay, what is actually sustainable for such an ecosystem, whatever it is made for.
Yeah, and one of the other things that is, pretty in danger when we talk about real-world assets tokenized is the way we bring the price on chain, so through oracles. Guess what do you think about that? How do you see this happening, and what we would see as best solution of having this centralization piece that we cannot actually remove easily? What's your thought?
With projects like Chainlink, oracles become more and more secure technology and something that we can trust. So I believe that's one of the challenges we have to solve, but definitely it's not something unsolvable and something that will break the whole future of bridging the physical world to the virtual one. And probably all these institutions and third parties that we have in the face of governmental agencies, independent credit agencies, and so on and so forth, they will be involved in that, and they will say exactly how much tokens could be issued instead of Tesla stock on the London Stock Exchange, for example, and what will be the price of each asset.
So we will have authorities, institutions coming on chain that we can actually recognize and acknowledge, and those will be, let's say, the provider of the trust for certain data, for example, that comes from the real world.
Initially, yes, and then if smart contracts get really deep into the organizations, probably we can fetch all the information from the fundamental indicators that the organization has. Because if you have a smart contract which is tracking your revenue, your payroll, your performance and everything, probably that's infrastructure could report directly on the blockchain.
Okay, interesting. And what about from a legal perspective? How do you see this happening in the future?
For sure, we will need some parameters that must be respected, but I have an advice for new projects and also for investors. The most important thing when you analyze and when you discover a project that is tokenizing asset is to determine how they structure the activity, if they have allocated assets or unallocated assets. I'll take the example of gold. So personally, I will choose a company that will offer me tokens backed by allocated gold. What does it mean? I have my own gold stored in a vault, and our gold, I mean the holder's gold, is not in the same basket with the company's assets. So if there will be a problem with the company, or if the company is exposed to something, to a sanction, to, I don't know, different expenses contracted by the founders, our assets will be protected. So the regulatory authority will take the control over the company, and our assets will be protected. And this is, I think, the most important thing for investors. And then it's also an advice for projects, because they are more, let's say, sexy for investors and for institutional investors. It's harder. They will need to allocate more. You will need to allocate more resources, but it's safer for your investors to allocate and to segregate the company's patrimony than the holder's assets.
I would like to add something to your advice. For example, I've seen projects with tokenization of gold, and the issuers of these tokens basically said, okay, as long as they possess the gold, which is associated with the digital token, they not only possess the token, the gold, the physical gold, but they also own it. So until somebody comes with the token to the place and exchange the token for the physical gold. And I think this is also a risk, basically, that you actually don't really own the gold until you possess and own it.
We have a very successful project called Aurus in UK. It's a licensed project, and they have allocated gold. And also, it's very interesting that in the next year, in my opinion, we will see many projects trying to tokenize spots of different businesses. So now we discussed about real estate, about gold, about shares. But I'll drop the bomb, like here you will see in Romania too, a business which is going to tokenize gyms. So they will start, then there will be others to tokenize a restaurant. They will tokenize, the business lines will be tokenized.
Tokenization of everything.
Yeah, because the power of multiple holders is essential, because they are looking for smart money in using the tokenization process. So they are not attracting only investors; they are attracting smart partners.
Yeah, that's the beauty of our world, right? That we can open to the masses, and everyone is actually able to being as a whale that is usually in traditional finance. So I guess we are out of time. This was fantastic. Do we have time for questions?
One quick question, very quickly, if there's anybody. Any questions at all, put your hand up and I'll come around with the microphone. One here, very quickly.
Hi, yeah, I'm interested in how, from a legal framework, you actually associate ownership with something like a restaurant with a token. What happens when I sell the token? Do I actually have some kind of registered stake in that restaurant on a commercial register, or what happens?
For sure, they will tokenize. They can tokenize the company, the SPV that will own and actually operate the restaurant, the shares of the company. The shares of the company will be held by another company in a jurisdiction where this is possible, to tokenize shares, and then to list the shares in a tokenized form on a security exchange.
You have a question? Quickly.
Hi. The question is for Mr. Vasilescu. What's the most friendliest country that I can open a company, let's say, to do either in Estonia an e-residence or to do it in Dubai, to open a company and open a crypto type project?
It depends. Okay, so from my perspective, Romania, it's an amazing environment to create, develop a token, a utility token. There are specific mechanisms, even if we don't have right now a specific regulation. I'm not able to directly answer to your question because I will give you an example. We have cryptocurrency exchanges as clients, and we have, I think there are 6 or 7. Each of them are, let's say, not based, but structured in a different way. So it really matters how you structure your activity behind. Even if that to end user you are offering the same service, it's very important how you decide to structure in the backend.
I'm asking last words from you to wrap up the panel.
Yes. So let's say one sentence that would push new startupper to start a tokenized project. Guys, do you want to give?
My sense is that we're just at the beginning of the real-world assets tokenization, and it probably will be one of the biggest industries in the future, so don't miss the opportunity to be part of it.
Don't hesitate to contact your advisors and to discuss with them before starting the development. We used to assist our clients from an idea to exit, a million exit. So we are able and available to discuss before starting to develop something, and together we are able to structure the company and the activity in a way in which you will legally operate in Europe or outside Europe, and you don't need to, let's say, recode something after, which is harder and more expensive.
And if you want to invest into tokens, especially when it's associated with bigger amounts of investments, I would rather suggest also search for investment due diligence services, because there are so many people also out there who just want to do the tokenization and take the money and run away. But hopefully we are here to actually use the tokenization to run a real life business.
Okay, I know you talk a lot, which is great, right? However, we need to wrap up this session. Ladies and gentlemen, please, hands together for everybody on stage in this session.